everyone, and welcome to the Strategic Wealth Strategies podcast with our host, Alan Porter. Alan, what's going on, man? How are you?
Doing great. Doing absolutely great. It's a beautiful day here in North Carolina, and looking forward to a great weekend watching the basketball games.
Oh yeah, it's so the March Madness was truly March Madness, and we're almost finished with March, and that's unbelievable. And Alan, when we're talking about specifically enough what's happened with our economy and different things, we have to have these things that are hopes by watching these really fun events, right? Especially if you're not in the right industry. You're definitely in the right industry. I'm definitely in the right industry, but a lot of people are struggling, and you're here to help them and talk to them about those things. So let's go ahead with my first question for you. What do you think about the state of our economy?
The state of our economy right now, as far as I'm concerned, it's a disaster. We've got, they say unemployment is down, but they don't take into account the 4.7 million people that just quit looking for work because they get paid more by the government than they are working. So why they want to work? But the problem is that money's going to run out. And then what are these people going to do? We've got massive inflation. We've got just right now, we have a $31 trillion deficit. And I think you heard me before, the Congressional Budget Office had a report last fall that if we do not raise taxes by over 66% by the end of year 2030, we're not even going to be able to pay the interest on the loan. The country will go bankrupt. So what they do is they print more money, causes inflation, makes our dollar worth less. It's called quantitative easing. But people don't understand. One third of all our debt has been caused in the last 2 years. And I know we had COVID and everything, but people, we're headed for a financial crisis as far as I know. So just like the stock market, I think it's down 25%. And we did a podcast there a week or so ago about I call it the stock market desert, where it takes so long for it to return back to normal. But the things that we're told by Wall Street, the opinions of people that sell stocks and bonds, well, that's their opinion, and they're supposed to be fiduciaries, and hopefully most of them are. But there's other things that come involved with this, and I go over that with clients. But people need to protect themselves because there's going to be catastrophic things going to happen to our economy, and I can show people how to protect themselves from these catastrophic things.
Absolutely, Alan. And you definitely can with the skill set you have and the ability to use certain programs to make it really work well for people, and to understand you have a team of people to help in that process to make things successful. What can people do to protect themselves? What are the steps?
Well, number one, especially when they come to retirement, you've got to have guaranteed income in retirement. Now, and this is a study by Harvard. People with a guaranteed income live a less stressful, more healthy, and longer life because they're not worried about the stock market portfolio going up and down. I know people that have, they retired in 2008 and they had 50% loss in the market, and they tried to retire. They couldn't retire. They had to work longer because the market didn't get back to where it was until the fall of 2015. But with the products I promote, now understand, I've got a team of people I work with. I'm not a registered investment advisor anymore. I do not do assets under management because I've got a conflict of interest. I will not charge people a fee whether they make money or not. That just goes against everything I do. But I have a team of people that do stocks and bonds. If my client wants stocks and bonds, then I give them part of my team. But I've told you before, I operate my business like a doctor. I ask question after question, and I need those questions answered, especially when it comes to goals and what they want to accomplish in life. Because if I come up with some feasibility study or some financial plan without those goals and desires accounted for, it's going to be totally worthless to the client. But I collaborate with top CPAs, tax-specific attorneys, and other specialists in their fields to give the client the best possible scenario.
That's huge, because doing that, it really makes life easier, and you really have a plan. Plans are important. Why should people get a second opinion, especially if they have their own financial planner right now?
Well, when you go to a doctor and he tells you got cancer, do you get another opinion?
Oh, heck yeah, I would.
Yeah, absolutely. I have my opinion, but everything that I say is based off mathematical, scientific, and economic facts. that is taught to me by the PhDs in retirement, Dr. David Babel, Dr. Robert Merton, Dr. Moshe Molesky. They don't sell anything for any company. They don't sell any products, but they know how to have an optimum retirement. There's no such thing as a best retirement, because the best retirement, yeah, it's great, but then you have risk involved with it. And people need to get away from this Wall Street propaganda of do the 60-40 top stock split and retire on that, because it doesn't work anymore. It hasn't worked for years, especially the 4% distribution rate. They used to say that was the safe distribution rate until age 90. And I think that's got a 25 to 30% chance of failure right now. And I asked people, I said, would you get on a plane in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and fly to Miami, Florida, if there's a 25% or 30% chance of that plane not making it? Well, hell no. But it's things that people don't understand, and they've never been told. Because what I do is I educate my clients. My first meeting with them, usually it'll last at least an hour. Sometimes that's gone 3 hours. It's up to the client. But what I want to do is educate them on the financial strategies the wealthy and the banking institutions have been using for years. And people, when I get done, people say, well, nobody's ever told me this before. And I say, that's because they're not educated on it. They're not licensed to sell these different products.
All right. So the next question, that's such a great point about getting a second opinion. I've heard you say something about sequence returns risk. What is it? And do you think advisors are telling their clients about it? And I'm blown away when you talk about this, because they just don't. I'm telling you, Alan, when I was meeting with a financial advisor years ago, I said, well, what happens if you retire at this time? You're really messed over. What if you go through all of these bad slumps and lose the money? Well, but you'll gain the money back. But they never talk about what if you retired in that year, and talk more about that sequence returns risk.
Well, I found this for almost all the clients that I work with. Their financial advisor never tells them about sequence returns risk. And sequence returns risk, and this is very, very important with people in a stock and bond portfolio. If the first 3 years before you retire to the next 3 years after you retire, if you have a down market in that time and you retire, you're going to be out of money probably in the 7th or 8th year, as compared to losses in the last 3 years of a 10-year period. The reason for that is because you're taking money out of a depleting asset and not putting anything back into it. So you have to increase your rate of distribution because you've got a depleting asset, and you're going to be out of money. And the reason, I don't know why they don't tell them. I think it's a fiduciary responsibility to tell the clients about sequence returns risk. But every client that I have, not one of them has an advisor that tells them about sequence returns risk. Not one.
That's crazy. Why don't they?
Well, just between you and me, I think it's because they get paid a fee whether the client makes money or not. And that's all they do is manage a stock and bond portfolio.
That's crazy. I mean, when I hear these things and I say, well, I wish I knew Alan Porter, 10, 20 years ago, I'd probably been in a lot better shape, especially when I was learning from Dave Ramsey. If you would have taught me a better way than Dave Ramsey, who knows what I would have been with finances back in that time. What is the number one fear of people in retirement?
The number one fear of people in retirement is running out of money before they run out of life. And I can show people, I can guarantee your income, I can guarantee you income even if your assets run out. I can guarantee you income for the rest of your life. I don't care if you live to 120. And insurance companies are the only ones that can do that. You can't do it with a stock and bond portfolio. You can't do it with cash savings. You can't do it with real estate. Insurance companies are the only financial institution in the United States will give you guaranteed income for the rest of your life, as far as I know. And they can do this because they manufacture mortality credits. They've got it covered on both sides of the sheet. If you die too young with life insurance, if you die too old through annuities, fixed and fixed index, not variable annuities, because variable annuities are tied to the market. Their fees are very high. They're over 4%. And people don't understand, this is another huge thing, especially with people in 401k. A 1% fee over a 30-year period, Neil, will reduce your income by 1/3. The average fee, and this is by Forbes magazine, I think it's lap time to put it out, but the average fee for a 401k across the United States is 2.88%. It is up till only a couple of years ago that they didn't even have to tell everybody what these fees are. When I asked people, I said, what do you put in your 401k? Why are you putting in a 401k? Well, it's a tax deduction. I said, no, it's not a tax deduction. It's a tax compounder. We're in the lowest interest rates, tax rates we've been in 70 years. With our national debt, if you don't think taxes are going higher, I've got mountain land in Florida to sell you. The thing is, people say, well, I'm not going to be in this tax bracket. I want to work with people that want to maintain their standard of living or have a better standard of living.
Okay.
But the thing is, I'm not going to make you rich, but I can guarantee you you're going to live a optimal retirement.
Definitely. Most people don't think they will need long-term care. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, let me tell you, you've heard this before. I bring it up all the time. 70% of all Americans are going to need long-term care at some point in their life. 40% of Americans right now between the ages of 18 and 64 are on long-term care. Long-term care right now costs between $50,000 to $200,000 a year, and it goes up every year. And there's a HLAB study by Dr. Korsky at MIT University. If you're married at age 65, there's a 75% chance of you or your spouse contacting Alzheimer's, dementia, or Parkinson's. And I know that for a fact. I'm 70 years old. And my brother, I had to go back to Nebraska this last spring to put him in a nursing home. He had called up, well, actually, the State Patrol had called his daughter up and said, you need to come I'm sorry, you need to come and pick your father up. He's disoriented, doesn't know what he's doing. He has Alzheimer's. They caught him going down the interstate in the wrong direction against traffic. He's lucky he didn't kill himself and somebody else. But, long-term care will wipe out a person's fortune. It's called Medicaid spin down. Let's say you got $2 million in your stock and bond portfolio, and the surviving spouse, if they don't structure their finances right 5 years before they need long-term care and put that money in a trust, Medicaid trust, so they've got to protect themselves. But if they don't, when they spend their assets, see, Medicare does not pay for long-term care. Medicaid does. And Medicaid is going to take all your assets, unless, I don't care if you got $2 million and you're in long-term care for 5 to 7 years, that could be gone pretty quickly. But the thing is, the surviving spouse is going to be left with one car, one house with approximately $137,000. They had $2 million at one time. And people don't understand that. And the other thing about long-term care, just don't think it affects people that are old. I said like 40% are between the age of 18 and 64. But my daughter-in-law at age 39 was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And if it had not been for the terminal illness rider, which she could access up to 1 year of diagnosis of a deadly disease, she got to access up to 90% of her death benefit, which is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it was tax-free. My son would be bankrupt. It took a huge financial strain off of me. But these things people don't understand. They don't know. I didn't know when. This is what got me started in this business when my daughter-in-law passed away, because I started finding out things about insurance products and what they do. They're the only product out there, Neil, that protects you if you live too long through the tax-free policy loans, protects your beneficiary, your family, if you die too soon through the tax-free death benefit, or protects you with long-term care options that are tax-free. There's not another financial vehicle out there that can do that, especially for pennies on the dollar.
All right. Anything else you may think of? You've talked about a lot of different things. That I'm thinking about, and I'm thinking about right now. The question I have for you is learning all these things. I think the biggest thing is cash value life insurance. Let's talk about cash value life insurance. This is where the greatest vehicle to become your own banker. That is such an unbelievable thing. And the Rockefellers did this, and people did this during tough times. Kind of explain to me cash value life insurance and how it can be a really good financial vehicle. Everyone thinks about life insurance as, just if you lose your life,
Right.
But it's so much more.
Well, that's what I thought when my son got sick. He's 100% disabled, and his wife died of pancreatic cancer. I thought you had to die to benefit from life insurance. And it's a wants product, it's a needs product, and it's the only product that offers all kinds of benefits that a stock and bond portfolio or real estate can't even come close to offering. The cash value life insurance first grows tax deferred. just like a qualified plan, but it's tax-free distributions. There's only two things that give you tax-free distributions. That's your Roth products, your Roth IRA and Roth 401k. People used to tell me municipal bonds and educational bonds are tax-free. I said, no, they're not, because they, first off, they affect taxation of Social Security and the means testing for Medicare Part B, which would be thousands per year. But if you live in a state other than where those bonds are issued, you have state taxes to pay. And if your state is large enough, there'll be estate taxes to pay. But the other thing too with cash value life insurance, I show people how to become their own bank. Pay yourself compound interest instead of the financial institutions. I'm going to give you a real quick scenario. Let's say you have $100,000 in cash value in life insurance policy, and you want to buy a $50,000 car. All right, first off, you can go to the bank. You may or may not get that loan. If you don't pay that loan, they're going to repossess the car and ruin your credit. But if you have $100,000 in a life insurance policy, you can borrow that $50,000 from your life insurance policy, pay it back at 0% interest, just like you had with the bank, $10,000 a year for 5 years. But if you did that with the bank, you may have a car after that 5 years and you've made all your payments. It may be worth $30,000, $20,000. Okay. But if you take the money out of your insurance policy, your cash value continues to compound. That $50,000 just put it as a lien against your death benefit. It accrues interest, but you're going to pay yourself back. So what you're doing is you're paying yourself back $10,000 a year back into your life insurance policy. And at the end of those 5 years, in the 6th year, not only do you have a car that's worth $20,000 or $30,000, but you have the $50,000 that you paid off the car with. And it compounds for you for the rest of your life. And you probably got another $5,000, $10,000 in that cash value, because you're with a whole life policy, you're paid dividends on the original $100,000 that you had in there. I mean, this is one of the greatest financial strategies that people they have no idea about this. But think about that. You're making money work for you in 3 different ways. You're paying yourself compound interest, and like Einstein said, people who understand compound interest will benefit from it, and people who don't are going to pay it. Well, 99% of all Americans are paying it right now. 83% of Americans are in debt. I think it's up to 84, but we have over $17 trillion in consumer debt, and it's getting worse. People are living paycheck to paycheck. They're deciding we're going to put gas in the car or food on the table. Wow. People, they're stretched thin, and I don't know how much longer it's going to have to go until something breaks.
All right, Alan. So the best place you can go is strategic. You can email you at strategicwealth0@gmail.com, or call you at 910-551-1046, or go to your website. What is your website again?
My website is www.alanporternc.com/strategic wealth strategies.
All right, Alan, we appreciate it. All right, that was the Strategic Wealth Strategies podcast, guys. Take care.